Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to my humble lounge. Today I am reading from the Tales of the Ambassador series. If you enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe to help my channel grow. Without further ado, let's get to it. Tales of the Ambassador, Part 1. Disclaimer to sapients unfamiliar with universal narration files. This is a translation, meaning that to the best of your device's ability, it will use terminology most familiar to your species. This includes the nearest applicable idioms, time measurements, species comparisons, distances, and more. If your companions of different species claim it read or spoke with a different term, this is the reason. I remember the day it all began. It was in the middle of my 5th standard year as Ambassador of Technology with the Thacknarks, a quadrupedal race that stands 8 feet tall and resembles a slender anteater with several dexterous trunks that they use to develop their technology over the eons. As the most recent, and by extension technologically underdeveloped, addition to the Alliance, however, the height of Thacknark technology is often mocked by the older, more powerful, and established sapients. As a Kuth, though, I loved working with them. The Thacknarks were not the most imaginative or quick-thinking of sapiens, but they'd proven to be one of the most tolerant. It was common for sapiens to recoil in fear of me and my kind, either because of our squid-like faces, or for our abilities as telepaths. Nobody likes having another sapient in their mind, or at least that's what nearly every non-Kuth tells me. The Thacknarks, however, are apparently an exception to the rule, and even seem appreciative of being able to think more clearly when their minds are connected to mine. It was thanks to that side effect of my presence that I became quite well liked, and it made my work of gradually bringing them up to the galactic's technological standard all the smoother. Nothing good lasts forever, though, and my days of peace and comfort on the Thacknark's homeworld of Serenity came to an abrupt end when I received a Priority 1 communication from the head of Alliance Relations, also known as the Chief. I remember spilling my tea across the table in my rush to answer. I don't want to think about how flustered I must have looked. If the Ambassador-in-Chief noticed, though, he'd shown no sign. "Sir, how may I be of assistance?"
Please turn on your privacy banner. What I'm going to tell you is highly classified.
I did so, and the mystery of why I was being called reached a whole new depth.
Done, sir. Unknown pulse signals reached one of our outermost listening posts around a week ago. We traced them back to a death world in uncharted space over 100,000 light years from the edge of our borders. It's a new sapient here. A new species of Deathworlders have now learned to traverse the stars. We can't allow anyone else to beat us to first contact, so we're emitting a counter-frequency and are dispatching a team of ambassadors in secret. You've been selected to take part. Had I not already spilt my tea, I was confident I would have then. Kuths like me may have had a far greater tolerance for emotions than most sapiens, but in that moment I was completely overwhelmed. I'd been an ambassador for over 15 years, but by the standards of my kind I was still quite young in my career. Why had I, of all of our ambassadors, been chosen to take part in a first contact? Something so rare, over 2 centuries had passed since our last one came in the form of the Thacknarks. I know I was considered a rising talent, but a first contact? With Deathworlders, no less? I'm terribly honored, sir, but are you sure I'm qualified? Won't the rest of the team be bothered if someone as new as I am was assigned over a more veteran ambassador? Dear, I'm going to make this to you straight. The team is being made up of members from the Elder Four,
the founding members of the Alliance.
Because they won't stand for a less influential member to have the spotlight of a first contact. You know as well as I do, that doesn't leave me with many options to work with. The Halaki don't even have ambassadors of their own anymore. You're known for your tolerance of lower tech level sapiens and for being a reliable and staunch worker. The other Kuth in our ranks don't have half your reputation. High Ambassador Mikri will be the team's leader, both because she's the most veteran and because of her role as the city's representative. The Olivalia's representative is Yagrak, and I convinced the Halaki to lend me Nirva. That war hero was the closest thing they have to a proper ambassador I could find. His honor guard will serve as the team's escort. The chief's absolute disregard for formality with fellow ambassadors, something I'd heard rumors about but had never experienced firsthand, helped me to calm down. The way he treated everything like it was just another irritating hassle for him to figure out shattered the feeling of this assignment being too important or grand for me to handle. In that case, I'm happy to accept. I assume I'll be leaving immediately? That's right. You're the closest to the secret military outpost we're using as a staging point, so you're going to be in charge of making sure everything's ready to go when the rest of the team arrives.
I'll see it done.
I have no doubt. I've already sent you your clearance codes and all the relevant information you need. You can read up on it on the way.
Of course, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. The chief's expression implied that he doubted opportunity was the right word, but he continued without commenting on it.
Your record speaks for itself, Tia, but just remember that this is a death world of first contact. We can't afford to allow those kinds of sapients to remain unaligned. Mikri will handle the membership negotiations, of course, but all of you will need to bring the very best you have to offer. If negotiations fail... He didn't finish, and there was no need to. I nodded my understanding, and the communicator cut off. I had nothing to pack that wouldn't be replaced when I got there, and arrangements would already have been made to explain the cause of my sudden reassignment to the Thaknark officials. A shuttle was waiting for me at the embassy launch port, so I said a few choice farewells and set my wrist computer to brief me in private audio as I made my way there. Information on their planet was 100,000 years old, so we had no way of knowing what kind of sapient would develop. But we were able to estimate the planet as a Class 13. Planets existed within a range of classes, Class 1 being Edenic, and 20 being the literal embodiment of hell. Planets ranked 10 and above are considered death worlds, with conditions that made survival a constant effort, if not an outright daily battle. The planet itself was a blue and green terrestrial orbiting around a yellow star. The other planets in their system were entirely inhospitable to life, but were rich in minerals and gases. It didn't look like they would have to travel beyond their system in search of resources for quite some time. That was good. It meant less aid would need to be sent to bring them up to self-sufficiency. It also would make it harder for the trade union to exploit them. There was even a good chance our jamming their pulse frequencies could keep the Hive and Legion from discovering them. The war to protect Thaknark from the Legion had been a costly one that lasted over a century, and there were more than a few members bitter about the losses they'd taken on their behalf. The newcomers' status as Deathworlders was as much a positive for negotiations as a negative. If they proved reasonable enough to negotiate with, they'd be afforded extra privileges and assistance in return for devoting themselves to the Alliance military. Deathworlders painfully outclassed standard sapients in warfare, and the Alliance was desperate for more elite troops to bolster its defense. After reading up on the rest of the team, I was honestly impressed. It was unfortunate truth that most of the Elder Four were prideful and looked down on younger members. This was not the case with my colleagues. Mikri was primarily known for her exceptional skills at negotiation, but it turned out she privately invested a great deal into lobbying for aid to minor members. Yagrak was an outspoken advocate of non-priority factions after his stint as a soldier in the last war. Paladin Nerva's work in freeing enslaved Thaknarks behind Legion lines and smuggling them back to safety was almost as legendary as his reputation as a warrior. I couldn't imagine us not making it safely to our destination with his honor guard escorting us. The land transporter stopped and I snapped back from my thoughts. The shuttle was waiting for me, and despite how terrified and underqualified I felt, I was excited to go. The risks were high, but the rewards were even higher.
I boarded the shuttle and left the system. I was determined to make history. And that is the end of part 1. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day.